Welcome into Steelers Talk. I am your host, Jack Sperry, and today it is a video that we have been waiting to do for a very long time. The video we like to call The Beast here at Steelers Talk. My perfect offseason plan for the Pittsburgh Steelers heading into the 2024 offseason. We're going to be breaking down everything that I think the Pittsburgh Steelers should do heading into this offseason. We're going to get into that here in just a second. But first, make sure you click that subscribe button for breaking news coverage for the Pittsburgh Steelers for free here on YouTube whenever they make a big move. They're going to be hiring a new offensive coordinator in the coming weeks. When that happens, we're going to be going live. Every time they make a signing in free agency, we're going to have you covered with the video. Speaking of free agency, we're also going to have in-depth coverage for that for you guys, letting you guys know everybody that the Steelers are targeting, all the different players that are going to be available, and then also we're going to have the most in-depth Steelers draft coverage available for you guys right here on YouTube. We're going to be going over scouting reports, mock drafts, the whole 9 yards. If you want the most in-depth Steelers draft coverage here on YouTube, make sure you click that subscribe button. We also have weekly live shows on Wednesdays, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. And then, it's all 100% free. We are the largest Steelers talk show here on YouTube. So do me a favor, click that subscribe button right now. So on today's show, we got a ton to get to today. It's going to be one of those longer videos, so thank you guys in advance for sticking with us. But first, going to give you my perfect offensive coordinator hire. Then we'll go into the offseason cuts. Then we'll get into free agency. I got 5 free agents outside of the organization that the team should go get. Then I got 2 big offseason trades to share with you. And then I got my first Steelers mock draft. So it's going to be an absolutely loaded show today. But before we get into today's content, want to give a little bit of a disclaimer here that this isn't necessarily a prediction video. I'm not saying that I think all these moves are going to be made by the Pittsburgh Steelers this offseason. This is just an ideal version of what I think this offseason could potentially look like. So I just wanted to get that out of the way. So without further ado, first things first, let's hire the new offensive coordinator for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And my choice for this is going to be Miami Dolphins quarterbacks coach, Darrell Bevell. All right, so Darrell Bevell is somebody that I've had on my list of Matt Canada replacements, even going back to 2 seasons ago, because I think he is supremely qualified to fill this position for the Pittsburgh Steelers heading into the 2024 season. So you take a look at Bevell's profile here. The scheme that he's going to be bringing in is a third-generation West Coast offense inspired by Kyle Shanahan there. And we've talked about what that entails. It's lots of 2 running backs on the field. It's lots of under-center play action, multiple run scheme. Also, Darrell Bevell himself has been an offensive play caller in this league for over 20 years. He started in the early 2000s, then towards a couple years back where he was the offensive coordinator for both the Detroit Lions and the Jacksonville Jaguars. His scheme definitely got a bit dated. So he went there to Miami to work for Mike McDaniel as the quarterback's coach. He has learned that new school version of the West Coast offense, and he's helped develop quarterbacks throughout his career like Russell Wilson, Trevor Lawrence, and Tua Tagovailoa there in Miami. He's also a one-time Super Bowl champion as an offensive play caller, so he has that experience, and he brings the offensive structure that I want to bring here to the Steel City. And the best part about bringing a guy like Darrell Bevell in here is that I don't think he's going to get poached. I think with the problem with maybe getting like a Zach Robinson or one of these up-and-coming names is that if they do well here in Pittsburgh, they're going to become head coaches elsewhere, and the Steelers are going to be back to square one. Darrell Bevell is an established presence in this league. He hasn't been a full-time head coach ever. He's been an interim at different times in his career. But I think that if he has success here in Pittsburgh, I think the chances of him getting poached to be a head coach elsewhere is definitely lower than some of these younger names that the Steelers will be considering. And then along with this offensive coordinator hire, I also want to hire Greg Roman as a senior offensive assistant, because Greg is one of the best, if not the best, run game designers in the National Football League. There's nobody that understands the run game like Greg Roman. Now, I didn't hire him as my offensive coordinator because he can't scheme a pass game to save his life, but I think that he would be a valuable mind to add to the room if they can get him as a senior offensive assistant. So let me know down there in the comment section, how would you be happy with this hiring of of Bevel as the next offensive coordinator for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Give me a yes or a no down there in the comment section. How do you feel about Darrell Bevell? This is going to be the pinned comment on today's show. So YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds. When that happens, take advantage of that time by answering today's pinned question with a yes or no. So now let's get into some cap space discussions here because, listen, the Steelers are kind of up against it heading into the 2024 offseason. They're in the red by over $17 million at this point, so it looks like the Steelers will need to make some pretty significant offseason cuts and move some money around in order to make some money for free agency. So let's start with the players currently under contract for the 2024 season that I would cut. I will cut Allen Robinson, Okorafor, Mitchell Trubisky, Damontae Kazee, Keanu, Neal, and Pressley Harvin III, the punter. All told, this will save you about $28 million for you in the 2024 season. If you guys want more in detail descriptions of why these guys will likely get cut for the Pittsburgh Steelers, I actually put it in yesterday's Cut Candidates video. I'm going to put the link to that one in the comments and description of today's show. Really worth noting there. So after these cuts are made, the Steelers will have just over $10 million to spend in free agency. And honestly, I'm not sure if that's going to be enough. So I'm going to make two more moves here to kind of create some more cap space for the Pittsburgh Steelers. First, we're going to restructure Alex Highsmith, and essentially what that means is you give him another signing bonus. That bonus gets distributed throughout the rest of his contract, and because he's got multiple years left on his deal, you can definitely save some money by restructuring Alex Highsmith. And then I'm also going to extend T.J. Watt for an additional 2 years on his contract and kind of backload that contract so that T.J. Watt's cap hit isn't nearly as high as it currently is. These two moves will definitely save you a lot of money and give you some breathing room here as we head into free agency in 2024. So still to come here on Steelers Talk in this perfect offseason plan video. We're going to be going into 2024 free agency. I'm going to let you know which players the Steelers should re-sign and which players they should go sign outside of the organization. Then I've got two big Steelers trades to make before we get into my first Steelers mock draft of this 2024 offseason. But before we get into all that, I want to have a word from our sponsor here at Fanatics. You can go to chatsports.com/Joey Porter Jr. to get an awesome Joey Porter Jr. jersey in your collection today. And listen, if you're somebody that, you don't spend all that much on jerseys, but you want to get a jersey for the Pittsburgh Steelers and you want it to last you maybe the next 8 to 10 years, I think this would be a great investment because Joey Porter Jr. just made the all-rookie team in the National Football League. I think he's going to be the true lockdown #1 corner here in Pittsburgh for at least the next 8 years. So if you want to make that investment right now, you can get it right now, chatsports.com/Joey Porter Jr. These things are going like crazy. If you want to make sure you get yours in your size, go to chatsports.com/Joey Porter Jr. to get it in your closet today. So the players that I would love to re-sign here, now obviously all these guys, I think that you need to get them for close to the vet minimum, maybe $1 million more here or there, but I like Eric Rowe as a rotational safety. Marcus Golden did a good job as a rotational edge rusher. Chandon Sullivan, I'd bring back as a backup. I'd still like to get a nice nickel cornerback or slot cornerback to be the true starter, but Sullivan has experience in this defense, so he'd be a good backup. And then Miles Killebrew, great leader in the locker room, great special teams player. I would love to bring him back. And then Montravius Adams, good backup nose tackle for Keanu Benton in this defense. So let's start with the ideal free agency haul here for me. I'm going to start with the offensive line and go with Trent Brown, formerly with the New England Patriots, set to hit the free agency market for a contract there of 2 years, $7.5 million per season, and that comes from Pro Football Focus, that projection, by the way. So we go over Trent Brown's profile here. Top 10 offensive tackle in the league this year, according to their grading system. This guy can play on the left side. He can play on the right side. He had that grade playing on the left side this year for Bill Belichick's New England Patriots. So I absolutely think this guy's one of the more steady offensive tackles in the league when it comes to starting tackles. And I think that contract right there for a really good starting tackle is definitely worth it for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Number 2 on my list, I'm going to go out and get a corner here with Kenny Moore II, formerly with the Indianapolis Colts, former Pro Bowler, for a contract of 2 years, $6.8 million per season. So this year, really good season for Kenny Moore there in Indy with a 77.4 PFF grade. That's good for top 20 in the National Football League among about 130 eligible cornerbacks in the league this past year. He can play in the slot. He can play on the outside. He's really good in zone coverage. And that contract is something that's pretty palatable to me as well. Not too much money. I definitely think that he's a good locker room fit. I think that he's a good scheme fit. And I think that overall, this would be a very, very valuable signing here for the Pittsburgh Steelers defense moving forward because of his versatility. Then number 3, I'm going to be bringing home the Pittsburgh boy himself, Tyler Boyd. Grew up in Pittsburgh, was a Pitt Panther. He says he wants to play for the Steelers at some point in his career. Why not make it this year? I'm going to sign him for 2 years, $8.8 million per season. And listen, I would love to bring the hometown kid back here. The Steelers are in need of a number 3 wide receiver. As far as number 3 receivers go, Tyler Boyd would be one of the best in the National Football League. And what I like about Boyd is, once again, the versatility. Can play in the slot, can play outside, can do a bunch of different things. And I think that Tyler Boyd would absolutely just fit this offense like a glove. Would really love to see Tyler Boyd in the black and gold next season. Then, because we cut Pressley Harvin, you got to go out and get a punter, and I'm going to go get Tommy Townsend, formerly with the Kansas City Chiefs. He's kicked in elements before. He's kicked in the cold. That's something that's really important to me. I don't want somebody that's an indoor punter. I want somebody that can kick in the wind, in the snow, in the rain, and Townsend's proven that he can do that. A 1-year contract for $1.5 million should do it. And then finally here, I'm going to go out and get a backup quarterback in Tyrod Taylor. 1-year contract, $4 million. I think that he's a very savvy veteran, and I think that the value that he can bring to this team is that whoever's quarterbacking the Pittsburgh Steelers as the starter next year, whether it be Kenny Pickett, whether it be Mason Rudolph, whether it be somebody else, I think that Tyrod can bring a hardworking mentality as a veteran, and he could really be a nice mentor to anybody that is the starting quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then if that starter goes down with an injury, I trust Tyrod Taylor with that versatility that he brings, with the athleticism that he brings to the table. And he's also really smart. He doesn't turn the ball over too often. I think that he'd be one of the more solid backups in the National Football League. And I think a 1-year contract for $4 million is nice for the pocketbook as well. So now let's make some trades here, because you guys know how much I am in favor of the Steelers making a trade for Justin Fields. I've even said that I'm willing to give up our first-round draft pick this year to make sure you go get him. But I think that the best case scenario here, this is the ideal version of the offseason. I think the ideal version here is that you give the Bears your second-round pick this season, number 51 overall, and then you trade a future fourth-round pick. I really don't see the Steelers getting him for anything less than that. I think realistically, it's probably going to have to cost a first-round draft pick. But because we're doing the ideal version here, I'll go with the lower-end package here for the Chicago Bears. And the reason why I'm trading for Justin Fields is because I do not believe Kenny Pickett or Mason Rudolph has the talent to be a Super Bowl winning quarterback at this point in their careers. In the AFC alone, you've got Justin Herbert, you've got Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Trevor Lawrence, Lamar Jackson. I mean, there are so many super weapon type quarterbacks in this conference, and you're going to have to beat those guys to make Super Bowls and eventually win them. I do not believe Kenny Pickett, Mason Rudolph are capable of doing that, especially on the road in the playoffs. However, with Fields' affordability, he would cost less than Kenny Pickett next year if you trade for him, along with his talent. He's an elite rusher. He's gotten better as a passer every single year in the National Football League. I think this is the type of guy that could go up against a Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen or a Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs and outduel them. So I'm going to push my chips in the center of the table here and go out and get Justin Fields. Now, because we have Fields and we have Tyrod Taylor as our backup, that means Kenny Pickett likely has to go elsewhere. So I'm going to have Omar Khan call up his friends there in Philly, and we're going to trade Kenny Pickett to the Philadelphia Eagles, where he will become their next backup quarterback. In exchange, we'll get their 6th-round pick this year, number 188 overall, and a future 4th-round draft pick, all right? So now, talking about draft picks, let's get that coming up next. I'm going to be going over my 3-round Steelers mock draft. But before I get into that, go ahead and give me a follow on Twitter/X right now at Jack_Sperry. Not only do I put daily Steelers content on there, I'm also going to be putting up a lot of college all-22 film on there, breaking down the top prospects in this year's NFL draft. So if that's something that interests you, make sure you go give me a follow at Jack_Sperry. All right, so now let's get into this mock draft here, where, of course, we trade our 2nd-round draft pick to Chicago, so we won't be having that one. But we still have our 1st-round draft pick, and with this pick, I'm going to get Joey Porter Jr., a nice running mate here on the other side of the Steelers defense, and I'm going to draft Kool-Aid McKinstry, one of the greatest names in the history of the National Football League, cornerback out of Alabama. I love everything that there is to love about Kool-Aid McKinstry's game. I love his name. I love his arm length. I love his recovery speed. I love his physicality against screens and against the run. I think that this guy just screams Pittsburgh Steelers, and I think that if you have Joey Porter Jr. and Kool-Aid McKinstry on either end of your defense, it's going to be really tough to target the outside portions of the football field. I think that this is going to be one of the best cornerback duos in the National Football League for at least the next half decade, and that's definitely something I want to get here in Pittsburgh. Then we get to round 3 here because, of course, we don't have that 2nd-round pick. Pick number 84, and I'm going to take Jeremiah Trotter Jr., the inside linebacker out of Clemson. I think that this guy is extremely athletic. I think he's somebody that can contribute right away. He's versatile. Really like what Trotter brings to the table, and I actually do think that he ends up dropping a little bit in this year's NFL draft class. But you know what, guys? You might be saying, all right, we're done with the mock draft. No, we're not, because we're trading back up into the 3rd round here. And we're going to trade both of our 4th-round draft picks this year, number 119 and 120, to trade up with the Washington Commanders for the final pick in the 3rd round here, pick number 100. I know some of you out there were saying, Jack, we haven't addressed the center position yet on today's show. And you'd be right about that. We're going to take care of that right now by taking Cedric Van Pran, one of the best centers in this year's NFL draft class. I think he's ready to play right away, and I'm going to draft him here at the end of the 3rd round to replace Mason Cole to be the starting center for the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2024. So now taking a step back here and looking at the big picture. After everything that we've done on today's show, this is what the Pittsburgh Steelers starting lineups would look like for 2024. You start with Justin Fields at the quarterback position. You got Najee Harris and Jalen Warren as your dynamic running back duo. I would move Connor Hayward to that fullback position. Darrell Bevel's offense likes to have 2 running backs on the field. Connor Hayward would be an excellent fullback in my opinion. You got Pickens, Johnson, and Boyd as your 3 top receivers. And of course, Pat Freiermuth as an excellent receiving tight end as well. Then you move on to the offensive line. I'm going to move Broderick Jones over to the left side. That's why you drafted him. Still got Sayamalu and Daniels at the guard spot. Cedric Van Pran, the rookie, gets plugged in there at center, and then I'll put the newly signed Trent Brown on the right side. I think this has the potential to be one of the best offensive lines in the National Football League for years to come. Super excited about that unit if the Steelers can make it happen. Then you move over to the defense. You've got that awesome edge duo with Watt and Highsmith. On the interior, you got Ogunjobi playing the 5-tech. You got Cam playing the 3 technique. Keanu's going to be playing the nose. And then your 3 top linebackers, Landon Roberts, Cole Holcomb, and Jeremiah Trotter Jr. getting in the rotation as well. Then you get to the secondary, and I think you just locked up one of the best cornerback duos for the next decade in the National Football League, and Joey Porter Jr. and Kool-Aid McKinstry. You plug Kenny Moore in at the slot. He's one of the best slot corners in the National Football League, so your cornerback trio is absolutely elite at that point, and you still got Minkah Fitzpatrick playing free safety, and then we're moving Patrick Peterson there to strong safety with Eric Rowe and Trenton Thompson filling out the rest of that rotation. So now it's the moment of truth. Let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section. Grade my ideal Steelers offseason, A, B, C, D, or F. Let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section, and let me know where you disagree. I love talking Steelers football with you guys, and I want to hear what you think of today's plan. That'll be it for today's show, guys. Thank you to all the real ones that stuck with me to the very end. I know this is one of the biggest and longest videos we do all season long. Really do appreciate all of your guys' support. Make sure you click that subscribe button because we're going live tomorrow. Steelers Talk Live starts at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Make sure you don't miss it. Click that subscribe button right now.